Hi everyone! So in today's video I am going to do something that has been highly requested, and that is how to summarize or how to pick out important information from textbooks or from any type of book, and how to translate what you read into a few notes that you can study before an exam or to keep with you as kind of like a summary or a mini version of a text. Now, before I get started, I just want to mention that summarizing and just like seeing all the important bits from a text is something that takes a lot of practice. You get better and better throughout the years, and it's not something you can actually teach. Think of it as math. I'm gonna give you my formula of how I do it, but then you need to apply it and practice it as much as you can. So the article I'm going to use as an example today is called Public Health, Significance of Neuroticism. And you see the author right there. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. And basically, what I am going to do is I am going to summarize this entire page, and you will do it with me. Before we start, however, just imagine this part is not here because this is the abstract of the article, so basically it's a mini summary. So we will pretend that that is not there. As you can see, it is extremely difficult because nothing stands out. So that's why I picked this as an example. You need to pick out what's important. When you are trying to summarize an article, what I suggest you do is you read the entire paragraph and then you summarize it. I am going to try to read this, but just FYI, if I make any mistakes, it's not because I can't read, it's because I'm reading through my camera, so I can't really see it very well. I hope you can. So, let's just get started. Personality traits quantify the marked variations in typical responding to the environment that distinguishes one person from another. Although personality traits have long been a topic of interest to psychologists, many of us are not aware of their broad and considerable importance to public health. The goal of this article is to change that perception for one particularly important personality trait. Neuroticism refers to the individual differences in negative emotional response to threat, frustration, or loss. Although the term neuroticism has its roots in Freudian theory and the Asian philosophical and medical traditions on which psychodynamic models were based, the modern conception of neuroticism is unrelated to such theories of unconscious conflict. Rather, neuroticism is usually defined today in purely descriptive psychometric terms. The first thing I see that's important are key terms. Always hunt down key terms. What I see in all of this, I saw personality traits as a key term, and I saw neuroticism as a key term because they were both defined. So what I did in my notes is, of course, I wrote the title of the article. It's always important. And then I picked up the key words, which are, like I said, personality traits and neuroticism. Now, I like to put this in my own words, and I also wanted to show you how you can like shorten words. Public health significance of neuroticism. Public health sig of neuroticism. This is just what I do. I know my techniques, I know my short words, and they mean something to me. Whereas, let's say my friend would read this, they're like, what is that? So basically, find out a method that works for you. Summarize words that make sense for you. It's gonna make it shorter, more concise, and you'll just like read through it really fast, and you'll see it's gonna be so short, it's gonna save you so much time. Now, let's get back to the topic at hand. So, personality traits and neuroticism. The reason why I did a little arrow here is because neuroticism is a personality trait. So, it's basically to tell myself, out of personality traits, we are focusing on neuroticism. Now, how do you define personality traits? Let's go back to the book. Here it says, personality traits quantify the marked variations in typical responding to the environment that distinguishes one person from another. Blah, 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 blah. You don't need all of that. Let's put it in our own words. Basically, what I understood from personality traits is basically how we respond to the environment. So what I wrote down is, what do you know? How you respond to environment. See? Oh yeah, that's like my texting people will understand the U and the shortened environment, because I'm not going to write environment each time, it's going to be way too long. So basically, that's my little definition. Now, how do we define neuroticism? Let's go back to the book. Where is neuroticism? Okay, here it is. Neuroticism refers to individual differences in negative emotional response to threat, frustration, or loss. Although the term neuroticism has its roots, I don't care. Basically, what it says here is that it's negative emotional response to threat, frustration, and loss, and also it is no longer defined as unconscious conflict, which it was in terms of Freudian theory. Emotional response to threat, frustration, or loss, and no longer seen as unconscious conflict. That's it. That's all I need to know. Another point I would like to make is when you summarize, you are actually an expert in your field. Like, you've done a lot of classes and some material might repeat itself, or there might be some things that you already know. So basically, see, when I wrote here, no longer seen as an unconscious conflict, I know that that relates to Freudian theory, and I know a lot about Freud and pretty much a lot of his teachings, so I don't need to specify to myself that unconscious conflict is a Freudian thing, because I already know it. So do that yourself too. If you've already done a class on something and then you read a book and you're like, yeah, I remember this from last year, I don't need to write it down. By all means, don't write it down, because you know it. So you're already kind of like a mini expert in the field. So you don't need to write everything down when you summarize. The article continues. Neuroticism is operationally defined by items referring to irritability, anger, sadness, anxiety, worry, hostility, self-consciousness, and vulnerability, which have been found to be substantially correlated with one another in factor analysis. For individuals who are high on neuroticism, such negative emotional responses to challenges are both frequent and out of proportion to the circumstances. In addition, persons high in neuroticism are often self-critical, sensitive to criticism of others, and feel personally inadequate. The dimensions of neuroticism, also often referred to as negative emotionality or negative affectivity, is included in nearly all major models of personality traits, including 3-factor and 5-factor models. So, again, another mouthful. See how heavy that is? Well, it doesn't have to be. So, what did we learn from this paragraph? The next section, I named it Facts About Neuro. See, again, I miniaturized a term because I don't want to write neuroticism every time. It's up to you to do this. If you want to write the whole thing, go right ahead. To me, it's just faster, and I know what I'm talking about because obviously I wrote my notes. And so, here I wrote the words that are associated with neuroticism that I was not aware of. So vulnerability, self-consciousness, anger, sadness, and etc. These are the ones that I don't know. I know worry is part of it. I know threat and frustration here. I already talked about it, so I just write down the ones that I don't know. And I also told myself that these items are frequent and out of proportion, which is exactly what the book said. Frequent and out of proportion to circumstances. So every time you want to make a link, you can just do a little arrow and say, by the way, these are frequent and out of proportion, or by the way, neuroticism, is a personality trait. Now, what I want to show you is that, let's say you write something down and you forget to write something else, or you keep reading the article and you find something like, let's say, over here that relates to what you wrote in your notes over here. What I do is I put it on the side in the little bubble, as in, Anna, this relates to this. I found it somewhere else, but it's pretty much the same thing. So it's also a fact about neuroticism, and it says that people with neuroticism are self-critical and sensitive to critique. See, another weird way of writing it, but hey, I understand it. If you understand your notes, that's all that matters. And let's go back. Here I kept reading the article and I kept reading facts about neuroticism, and I just want to give you some examples. Negative emotionality, I didn't write negative, I just put a little minus sign. Negative affectivity. Neuroticism scores are high in late adolescence, and this means that goes lower a bit in adulthood. See, all of that is basically this entire page. Only I'm not going to go through all of this because this video is going to be like 30 minutes long, but I really wanted to do the 2 first paragraphs, and just to show you how from all of this boring nothingness, how you can pick out key terms, keywords, and it's so much easier to study. I mean, look at that. Isn't it less intimidating to see that than that? So basically what I am trying to say here is that summarizing and picking out important information from text is something that you need to practice. Did you see that just by looking at this, I already picked out my key terms? I am very fast at doing this because I have been doing this method for a long time. You can get just as good or even much better than me if you practice. So what I suggest you do is you don't only do this for school, but let's say you read a book just for pleasure, just to practice, stop a bit and put the book down and say, hey, what were the most important things from this book? And it's gonna help your brain practice and pick out information or important like resumes or what have I learned from this book. I really hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions or if you want me to like do this again with a different book, maybe you didn't like this one, it will be my pleasure. Just leave it in the comments down below. And yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to me if you like what you see, and I will definitely see you in my next video. Bye guys, good luck with your finals!